And this is my oral communications class. This is my video, and here it goes. Next slide, Alex. I'm going to talk about abuse with children. One of the things that's crucial is a stable environment for children. If they don't have a stable environment, then everything could go wrong with them. That means that it could be sexual abuse, it could be physical abuse, it could be a range of both of them. Personal childhood experiences affect a child's behavior, so what they see as children is what they're going to do as an adult. You must find out why the child does the behavior he does before you can treat that child. Now what that means is you have to know not only the behavior that he does, but the reasons behind it. It could be anything from he was abused as a child as physical abuse. It could be that, or it could be mental abuse. It could be a combination of the both, but every child is different, so they all have to be treated differently. You have to have a treatment plan, and you have to follow exact steps before the child's behavior will change. And it has to be repetitious. In a few slides from now, we will go over that. Next slide, Alex. Children learn a lot of behaviors from child care facilities and homes. That's where they spend most of their time, so that's what they're going to pick up on. Children, they learn most of their behaviors from the age of 1 and 3. They can still be changed, but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of repetition. Okay, Alex. If we can help a child learn the different behaviors and coping skills, then we can change a child's future. So what that slide means is instead of you punishing them for doing something wrong, you praise them for doing something right. And if they do something wrong, then you can correct that behavior by telling them that was wrong, what do you think you should do instead? Now, none of this can be done while they're angry because they're not going to listen to you. So you have to wait for them to calm down, and then you have to tell them, this is the behavior we expect from you, this is what you're doing, and this is why it's wrong. Because some children don't realize that their behaviors are wrong. This is what they grew up with, this was their environment, this is how they live. They don't know any different. Like something as simple as setting the table. Some children don't know how to do that. Okay, Alex. Okay, here's the first steps of healing. Getting a roadmap of the healing process. What that means is you need to figure out what road you're going to take for the child to heal. So each child is different, as I said, so each child's going to have their unique treatment plan. The next step is setting treatment goals and learning about helpful approaches to researching these goals. Now, when you set the treatment plans, you have to have a reward system and you have to have a behavior modification system in place. Establishing safety and stability in one's body, one's relationship, and the rest of one's life. Now that sounds kind of funny about establishing being stable in one's body, but you figure children who've had sexual abuse or physical abuse, they're not stable in their own body. They don't know what boundaries are. So something as simple as a child asking for a hug to a stranger they don't know, a child who's been abused doesn't know to ask for that hug. They just run up and they hug them. Relationships, you have to be there all the time. So a child, when they build a relationship with you, it has to be a stable relationship. It can't be, well, I'm off for 3 days, I'm not going to see you, have a good time. Or I'm tired of you, I'm quitting, that's it. And it has to be for the rest of one's life. So even though they're not in a facility or in a hospital, the treatment still has to be stable. The child's parents, when they go home, or child's foster parents, when they go to a foster home, they have to follow the same rules that they did at the facility. They can't change the rules, they can't make up new ones, they can't reward the child for things that they didn't do. Tapping into and developing one's inner strengths and other potential available resources for healing. Now what that's talking about is sometimes you have things in common with the children. Fishing, for example. Some workers have the fishing thing in common with the children. So they'll sit down, they'll talk about something as simple as fishing lures. But that's building that relationship with that child. That's helping that child know that you're listening to them, you're there for them. Because most children that have been abused, they don't have that. Learning how to regulate one's emotions and manage symptoms that cause suffering or make one feel unsafe. That's a hard one. When you're a worker in a facility, it's hard to regulate your emotions because they're children. But you have to learn to check your emotions at the door. You have to learn not to take what they say personal. You have to learn that they're not acting out because of anything you did. They're acting out because that's all they know. That's how they get attention. And until you stop and you break that cycle and you teach them something new, it's not going to change. It'll always be the same. Making one feel safe or unsafe. Yes, that's another big issue. If you're doing something and you don't even know you're doing it sometimes, like a simple thing, if a child has been sexually abused, sitting too close to them, that could trigger that child into a rage, and that could trigger a lot of behaviors that you don't want to see in that child. So you have to know the child's history, you have to know what they've been through, and like I said, each child is different. You can't have the same treatment plan for each child. Developing and strengthening skills for managing painful and unwanted experiences and minimizing unhelpful responses to them. Once again, this is talking about how you deal with the child's behavior. You don't tell Johnny, hey Johnny, you're a bad kid because you did this. You say, Johnny, what you did, we don't like that behavior. You know that it's not acceptable. What is the correct behavior? So you give them a chance to figure it out for themselves. And usually they'll change what they're doing, as long as you're positive with them and you're not pointing out, Johnny, you're bad. Because that's all the child's heard for most of their life probably is, Johnny, you're bad. Or you're a bad kid. Okay, Alex. Child abuse occurs at every social economical level, across the ethnic and cultural lines, within all religions, and at all levels of education. About 30% of abused and neglected children will later abuse their own children, continuing the horrible cycle of abuse. Also, I have statistics that tell about what the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said in 2006. They said that children who experience abuse and neglect are 59% more likely to be arrested as a juvenile, 28% more likely to be arrested as an adult, and 30% more likely to be committing a violent crime. Now, these are just things that they were taught. So most of these people never had the opportunity to go somewhere to where they could unlearn the behaviors that they know. So even though they did these things, it's not 100% their fault. They're still doing what they learned as children. Okay, Alex. The estimated annual cost of child abuse and neglect in the United States for 2008 is $1.24 billion. That's a lot of money. Okay, Alex. In conclusion, there's no such thing as a lost or a bad child. We need to learn why the child does the behaviors they do and treat them. The children have to learn to trust people and to change their behavior. And until you build up that trust or that bond with that child, you're never going to get that. So you have to be stable. You have to have that unconditional love for them, because they're going to say things to you. They're going to try to bite you, kick you, hit you, depending upon what abuse that child has had before. You're going to have to teach them new behaviors. And also, that's part of the reason that I went into this field, was because I care a lot about children and I want to see them strive for better than they had. I've seen what they went through in their charts. I've seen how horrible their lives were before. I see how they act out and how that affects them now. I'd like to change that and make it a more positive place for them and for the rest of the children that are growing up, because eventually they are going to become adults, and when they become adults, then they're going to be mingling in with everybody else's children. So they're not always going to be institutionalized. And that's my speech. Thank you.